Welcome! In this screencast, we take a look at getting an AngularJS app up and running in no time with the amazing Yeoman toolset. Yeoman is comprised of three tools. First, you've got Yo, which is used for scaffolding. Grunt gives us a whole bunch of stuff like serving up the app while we code it up, compiling stuff like CoffeeScript and Sass, and also doing intense build stuff like combining and minifying your files. If you've worked with Ruby, you can think of it as sort of like Rake. Lastly, we've got Bower, which we use to pull in and manage our dependencies. It's for HTML apps, what Bundler is for Ruby and what NPM is for Node.js. First off, I'm going to create a new directory for a simple budget application we're going to code up. I'm installing Yo a bit different than usual. It's recommended that you install it globally using the G flag. I opted to do it locally so that we don't have any clashes with different versions and stuff like that. So we've got our scaffolding engine installed, but we need to let it know how to generate an Angular app. So we install the Angular generator using npm. Usually you would also install this globally with the -g option. Now that we've got the generator installed, we can generate our app. Remember, we've already seeded into our budget folder, so the generator will actually derive the app name from the folder you are currently in. Also, keep in mind that if you install Yo into the global npm store, you wouldn't need to specify the whole path as we need to do here. It asks us whether we would like to use Bootstrap, which we do. We also want to use roots, so let's make sure to include that. Okay, so our app has been generated. Let's use Grunt to fire up our development web server. Just to show how powerful this whole setup is, I'd like to show you the live reload we've got hooked up out of the box. We just changed this one sentence and saved the file. And as you can see, it auto-reloads this page. This is Grunt doing some amazing stuff for us in the background. We're going to pull down a JSON file and then bind our view to it, so that we can play around with the generated app structure. I'm just using curl to copy the JSON file into this exact folder. You can do the same if you are following along. Now we can verify that our app is serving up this JSON file correctly. Looks good. Okay, so in our main controller we want to use the $HTTP service to pull down this JSON and bind to it. Now we set the result of the HTTP call on scope so that our view can access it. In our main HTML view file, we get rid of all the generated copy. Now we do a simple binding to verify that the data is available. As you can see, it's definitely wired up correctly. I've prepared some markup beforehand that makes it look a bit nicer and uses Twitter Bootstrap stable styles. That looks way better. We've got a detail link, but at the moment it doesn't work, because we haven't set it up yet. So let's fix that. Back in terminal, we use the Angular generator through Yo to generate a new root. This is where scaffolding really helps us out. It generated all the files we need to serve up the detail root, the controller, a test for the controller, as well as the template for the root. It even hooked everything up for us in the routing definition and the existing app.js file. This is really powerful. But when we click on detail, it doesn't serve up the new root yet. That's because the root needs to be changed a bit to accommodate the description we're passing to it. We quickly introduced the description token for the root here. Now when we click on the link, it serves up the new view correctly. We copy the code from the main controller in order to get the data and set the correct item on scope for the view to bind to. I'm using a standard filter call on the array to find the item with a matching description. In order to get the description that was specified in the root, I need to let Angular inject the root param service. The root parameters will have attributes for all the tokens that were specified in your routing definition. So we can expect an attribute called description to be available on it. Let's test that out and bind our view to the scope data. We can now use the browser back button to go back to our list and click on another item. It's amazing how quickly you can get to this point with Angular and Yeoman. We've been using Grunt to serve our app with live reload. We've used Yo to generate our app and a new route. Let's get our hands dirty with Bower and use it to pull in the very useful _JS library and use it to display a total for our budget. In the terminal, we use Bower install to install _. I'm passing the save option because I would like to add this action to my bower.json file. We need to instruct our index.html file to go load _. Those JavaScript comments are used to tell Grunt how to package the files when it minifies and combines the files as part of the build process. Now that we have _ available to us, we use it to calculate the total of all the items by doing a map first and then a reduce to sum it up. Lastly, we quickly bind our view to the newly created total. And that's it for this screencast. Using Angular with Yeoman is a very powerful stack that does a lot of heavy lifting for us. I hope you've enjoyed this tag tree screencast.